come to a meeting, okay? So that's an important thing to think about, is before you protest them and assault them, think about how you can try and work with them too. I mean, it's all, like I said, locally specific, but that's an important thing to think about as the order of operations and how you attack them. So presentation was made to choir, and I had that presentation as well if anyone was interested in that, but it was really founded on everything that the people have said before me, is that setting up that this is an occupation. Like, people in choir and the Board of Trustees, they didn't even know about this. They don't even know about occupation. You need to present this to them, you need to frame it for them, and it's really important because these, people in the Board of Trustees, they pay to be a part of this. It's a matter of prestige. You need to let them know that this is illegal under national law. You need to ground it in their language, okay? Like, to say that this is horrible murder and so on and so forth, they're going to turn you off like that. So then, let me get right back just a little second to the bureaucratic structure. So we made a presentation to choir, which then recommended that we meet with make our presentation to the full Board of Trustees, which then happened. And it was a positive thing, but then the Board of Trustees went back to choir and said, okay, now you need to make a recommendation, because as the system is, choir recommends the investments, which then go to the investment committee and the finance committee, and then the Board of Trustees finally passes these investments. So going back to this, the choir recommendation was actually made in August when the school wasn't in session, and choir said that yes, the school should divest from these companies, which was an amazing moment, but really not the end at all, and it took another 6-7 months for them to actually divest. Now, what's important is that choir made this statement, and the school, actually the Board of Trustees, wrote letters, which I wish we had our hands on, but they wrote letters saying to each of these companies, you need to stop your activity in Palestine or we will divest from you, on the basis of this screen and what choir's screen was before. Okay, so that's really important as well, is that you need to, like I said, creating a screen, present a screen to whatever body you're working with so that they can't make it up themselves, or at least try and have some say in it. So choir made a recommendation and it went to the board, and essentially at this point SJP was really just waiting for the board to vote. I mean, obviously there's still a lot of stuff going on. I mean, we set up a wall, we set up checkpoints, we did this multiple times. We've done it twice, and it's now been done at Amherst College, and we'll probably do it again. So I think it's a really effective method. What we did was we set up a wall, and in everybody's mailbox we slipped in passports, either Israeli or Palestinian, and we set up right in the middle of campus where everyone walks through, and you had to show your passport, give it to them, and either they would be let through or go on, or so on and so forth. So these are just all effective methods to really get it in people's face and let them know. You need to, one thing just strategically is we hosted events, and that's great. But you can host a lot of events, but what you'll find probably, and you already know, is that a lot of the same people will come. You're going to be preaching to the choir a lot, which is great to build up people within your own organization, but it might not be the most effective way to get people on campus who aren't on your side engaged in the issue. And so I think what you need to do is not only host events and allow people to come to you, but you need to go to them, and you need to get in their face, and you need to make yourselves really available and a thing on campus, okay? And this is going to have drawbacks. People are going to say that you're, people have leveled this against SJP, that it's a group of extremists, that it's radicals, that they're aggressive, so on and so forth. And this, in some respects, this is really real, but at the same time, you have to let people know. You can't wait for them to come to you, okay? So the Board of Trustees, as most Board of Trustees do, or administrations do at large when they come up with an issue that they don't like, is that they drag their feet for a long time. So the board had received this note from choir that they should divest, but within the board itself, there was a lot of dissent. There were people who said, yeah, I'm into divesting, and there were other people who were like, no way. We're completely opposed to this, and the fact that the school does divest, we're going to leave the board. And for a school like Hampshire that really doesn't have much money, and especially in terms of the operating budget of Hampshire runs off of every year's tuitions as opposed to a large endowment, to have people who are major contributors say they're going to pull out is something that the school is really scared about. So I think a real pivotal moment in the movement at large, but for what happened here was the assault on Gaza. And I think, like I said, and what people talked about last night in the opening session, is that there are ebbs and flows, but at the same time I want people to know that it's not like what happened in Gaza was the catalyst for everything. This has been going on for a long time. So what happened was that the assault on Gaza occurred, and I think, like what Kanye talked about last night, was that our administration, and especially our president, were incredibly deceptive with us all along the way. As they said one thing to us in regards to, we're on your side, this is such a horrible thing going on, and we want to make a statement, and then they would completely do something different. So I think, keep that in mind, not that no one doesn't, but if you can, try and get something in writing. Most administrations won't be into that, won't be into signing anything, but I can't tell you how many times reporters or groups or people who were interested asked, do you have anything they said in writing? And frankly, we didn't have them making these agreements in writings, and that's something that should have been done, and not necessarily that they would have agreed to it in the first place, but it's worth trying. So for example, after Gaza happened, the assault on Gaza, people were meeting with the administration and reiterating again and again how awful and destructive this is, and that how can the school, A, continue its investments, and B, not make a statement to their own complicity and how atrocious this is. Because there's a lot of talk about how terrible this is going on in schools or teachers, but it's like, great, you can talk about it all you want, but when you're still invested, you might as well be holding the gun yourself. So I think that, like has been mentioned before, is an incredibly important parallel to make. Talking means nothing unless there's action engaged in it. So the president said he was going to make a statement, which he did, and you can look at it on his blog, but it's just an absolute fallacy. It's, let's just put it this way, he's a rhetoric or linguistics, one or the other, and that's what his degree is in. So he really knows how to say a lot and say nothing at all. So, getting back to this. So then in February, in late January and early February, choir met again, and right before the Board of Trustees met. All this while, SJP is, we're not sitting around waiting. We're obviously sitting around and waiting for the Board of Trustees to vote. But I think that at this time there was an interesting tension because we wanted to ramp up what we were doing, but at the same time, we didn't want to do anything that was going to make the board just completely say, no, never mind, screw it, like they've done something out of line, we're not even going to talk about this anymore. So I think, this is another factor which I can't make a prescription for how it should be done on your campus, but it's something important to think about, is that your actions will have consequences, and you need to weigh that in terms of your movement at large. So then in February, the board meets, and they agreed on a sale. Now, what's important is that within the Board of Trustees, there was a feeling that, okay, we'll make this sale, but we're going to need to make a compromise. And that is that we'll make the sale, but we're not going to go public. Okay? So, we obviously completely said, we agreed to this compromise and then turned around and did what we did, which is what anyone would do, obviously. We're not going to sell out. But this is important, and I think, again, negotiate with your administration, and you don't have to, if they're going to do something like they're doing, which is investing in these corporations, you can play with them on the same ball field, but play by their rules, and they're playing dirty too, so don't be afraid to go ahead and do what you need to do. But like I said before, weigh it, They divested, so then we knew, okay, we can go ahead and completely destroy that relationship which is what happened. But I'll be serious, I know that people are laughing, but it's important is what happened in terms of the deterioration of that relationship and how they responded. Because I want to get to that, because it's a really important thing in terms of message and in terms of administrative response. And it's, it happened after divestment, but it's something important to think about as you move forward with your entire divestment campaign. So